Welcome to a list of 10 superhero video games that I would love to see in the future. Hitting 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel has given myself a level of credibility that I don't frankly deserve, so I figured I would say more things and see if you guys agree with them or not. Obviously, the first game that I would like to talk about on this list, and one that frankly just needs to be here, it'd be a fucking crime to make this list and not include this franchise on it. I'm referring to the infamous franchise, if you didn't know. Whether it's a reboot, or whether it's a remake, or whether it's just a remaster, any of those things I would like to see. Honestly, I couldn't get through the first Infamous game, and I would love to see it remade and remastered, and I would love to play that and experience that original story, but in a way that's maybe not as clunky as the PS3 game that it is. Or maybe just make an Infamous Second Son sequel or something, where you just move around and like make that movement really good, like Spiderman PS4 style, or like Saints Row 4 style. I love moving around in that game. And of course, the infamous karma system is iconic, and that needs to play a role, like a huge role in whatever they do next, and your choices really need to matter and make you feel like a hero or a villain if you want, and make those choices really impactful and really cool. Game number 9, I would love to see a Superman game personally. I would love to just fly around a city and protect people in that city and protect that city. Think like Megaton Rainfall or Undefeated if you've played either of those games. Of course, Superman is overpowered and would just absolutely demolish anything in his path, so that's why you have to give him a different kind of struggle and make him actually fight against an environment and have that environment have a health bar. Or he has to save lives, and if he fails, then that's your fail state right there. Or maybe you have like a kryptonite mechanic where all the enemies have like kryptonite bullets, but that's like way less fun in my opinion, but that is a route you could take. Whatever it is, I would love to see this in a video game. It would be a really good chance to really burst into that Superman narrative and have him be larger than life, but also incredibly human. It could be beautiful. In a similar vein, another DC hero I would like to see get another video game is Batman. I would love to see the Batman Arkham series continue in a much more Bruce Wayne-centric format. Arkham Knight left that series ending pretty vague, and that's kind of a really good opportunity to re-enter into it, and I would love to see that Batman interact with members of the Justice League. Maybe we revisit him in a team-based setting, maybe we revisit him in a Dark Knight Returns-based setting where he's old and broody and angry, and truthfully, it doesn't really matter how we return to that character. I just want to return to that character. He's one of my favorite video game characters of all time. He's so cool. And yes, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is probably returning to that character maybe, but I would love to see him be a protagonist again. The next game on my list is where we get a little bit crazy. It's where we get a little bit out of the box. This is a Booster Gold style time travel-y video game idea that I had. Just the idea of a time travel DC game blows my mind. It allows you to do so much. You could look at so many different aspects of DC. You could go back to the golden age of comics and experience all that initial DC stuff. Oh, Crisis on Infinite Earths, there's so many different events from the comics that you could hit that makes this such an interesting idea to me. Of course, Booster Gold is a lighthearted, chill, comedic character, so those kind of vibes would fit really well in this type of game. Almost kind of think like the Deadpool kind of game narrative type vibes, like that's what I'm kind of going for. But I don't think it has to be that genre. I don't think that Booster Gold fits the hack and slash format. Honestly, I think he kind of fits the collectathon vibe more. Maybe you're just running around different levels and they're just different time periods in DC, and you're running around collecting something and you just are playing like a 3D Mario game, but you're Booster Gold. I think that'd be really fucking cool. Honestly, that's my personal favorite on this list. It's the most interesting idea that I came up with. I couldn't make this list without talking about a Flash video game. I would love to play a Flash video game. The closest thing that I've ever come was a Skyrim mod that let you play as the Flash, and you were just totally overpowered and could beat the shit out of people without them even seeing you were there. It was so great. And those kinds of Speed Force mechanics are things I would love to see in a Flash video game, but it's also why a Flash video game doesn't make a whole lot of sense. How do you do that? How do you make that sort of thing interesting and challenging? It's really difficult. But honestly, I would love to see a Flash game. I want to see the Rogues. I want to see Reverse Flash. I want to see him go fast. I want all of that, but it's really difficult to make, and that really sucks. I wear this Avengers jacket in a lot of my videos, and if you're looking at it like, dang, that's a cool jacket, I got good news for you. I am working with Fandomi in the marketplace where I got this jacket to bring you a great deal on Marvel, DC, and even anime merchandise in their shop. Look at all of this. It's so cool, it's affordable, and I've wanted to work with them since I bought the jacket, so this is like a dream come true for me. If any of that sounds appealing to you, check the link in my description and use code SyncroChamp for 10% off whatever suits your fancy. You'd be supporting me in the process, so like, go do it. Go buy yourself some cool stuff. I cannot tell you to do it. Go, do it now. Thank you. Next up, a Spider-Verse game. We have the Insomniac Spider-Man universe. I want that to culminate into some big Spider-Verse event with characters from the movies, with characters from the Spider-Verse movie, with characters from the MCU, with all of those different Spider-Men, led by like a Miles Morales or even a Spider-Gwen. Something like that would be so cool in my opinion. And I think that that's a perfectly natural place for these Spider-Man games to progress, especially with Insomniac working on other Marvel titles, and there's potential crossover there. That could be really cool. Speaking of Insomniac's other Marvel titles, this next game is an X-Men game that would tie into the Wolverine Insomniac game. You would introduce other characters of the X-Men, like your Jean Grey, like your Cyclops, like your Storm, all of those people. And maybe you would play kind of like Gotham Knights, and you'd be able to co-op it up with your friends, and you'd be able to run around and be the X-Men. And maybe you take some inspiration from the old X-Men games in terms of story, narrative, references, all that. Like, that's an avenue for some really interesting stuff in my opinion. And maybe you sprinkle some Deadpool references in there for good measure, just because that stuff would be really fun to see. Now, I couldn't make this video without also talking about these next two games. These are the big cojones in my opinion. An Iron Man video game would be so cool to play. You can fly. You have different suits. All of the different suits act as different kind of gameplay mechanics. They all have their own unique power set, abilities, whatever it might be. And I'm not talking about the Iron Man VR game. This would be totally separate. This would be like a third-person action-adventure game type vibe. Whose dream is it not to just fly around and be Iron Man? That sounds like so much fun. Now, the big one, of course, the big one is a Daredevil video game. Who doesn't want to play a Daredevil video game in the style of like the Arkham series? That would be so fucking cool. You could incorporate the sight thing as its own unique mechanic with a focus on why it's important to be accessible in video games and all that. I don't know if that's like an accessibility angle, just a thought that I'm putting out there. It could totally revolutionize video games if you could make that sort of thing work, where you have sight not based on like an actual first-person perspective, but based on like your other senses. I don't know how the hell you would do that. There are games that have tried before to varying degrees of success, but I think that could be a really interesting idea to play with. But of course, it could just be like a third-person regular beat-em-up, and I'd still totally be happy with that. As long as we get some interesting like street crime level Daredevil narrative, that would be enough for me, and I would run with it for miles. I would be so in. Now, of course, that list is pretty good, and I would love to see each and every one of those, but I have more than that. Here are some honorable mentions. A sequel to the Prototype franchise would be awesome to see. I love Prototype 2. That game is great. I mentioned Saints Row earlier when I was talking about movement in like an Infamous style game. I loved Saints Row 4. I would love to see that game get more love. I would love to see it get a sequel that's not Gato to Hell and doesn't suck. A Captain America game. The Captain America movie game is actually really good, and it really surprised me, and I would love to see something like that in the modern day with more modern graphics, with more modern gameplay, with maybe even like Avengers game style gameplay. Like, you don't have to take anything else from the Avengers game, but the Cap gameplay is really fun. And of course, whatever your favorite superhero is, I would love to see that game as well. Most likely, I just want any superhero video game I can get my hands on. Let me know what ones you would like to see that I obviously missed in this video down in the comments. I would appreciate that a lot. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. It helps out a lot. And make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when I upload more stuff. I'm doing it a lot. I'm uploading every week. Check them out, please. Thank you. Bye.